Hello, I'm David Dugdale. I have a TV and satellite shop, and I supply TV and satellite to the people of Waddington. Waddington is a television village.
The villagers of Waddington have been gazing into television's future. For them, viewing is free, but in the real future they will have to pay. Multi-channels from satellite and cable are here already, for those prepared to spend more on extra choice. Coming soon, if it fits into your living room, widescreen television at around £3,000 a set. And by the mid-90s, even bigger pictures and twice as clear. The new viewing experience of high-definition television. All this and more came to Waddington, confronting the villagers with financial decisions they've never had to consider before.
Thank you.
Every Thursday, retired engineer Harry Wood collects his pension from the village post office. £51.10 comes in, but he also has an important purchase to make.
Okay, Harry. Thank you.
£4 of television, please.
For TV. Stamp. 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, £11.
Right, thanks, Celia.
Thank you.
Harry is 78 and lives alone. For him, television is far more than mere entertainment. It's a friend in the living room.
Usually it goes on about 5:30 until 12:30, 1 o'clock. Every night. Oh, it is company, yeah. Oh, I miss it. I don't know what to do without it. I'm a poor reader, for one thing, you know, so generally speaking, it is part of my life now. And I think anybody on their own, it's the same idea. Got to be.
Until recently, less than £1.50 a week paid for a licence to watch 4 channels of television. 2 from the BBC, funded by the licence fee, 2 more, ITV and Channel 4, paid for by advertising.
Doesn't matter. It's going to be so funny, this advert. We don't want a serious one from you.
And it was advertising to which Waddington Village Television immediately turned to raise money.
Right, lie down, see how far you...
One of the first decisions the channel took was to make, or at least try to make, their own commercials at £50 a go.
Oh yes, there it was, a little spell. We've got it. Why not let us operate on you at Hall Street, our new premises. Can we do that again?
The village channel was licensed by the Independent Broadcasting Authority, all commercials strictly vetted.
Is that okay?
No, that's one that I want to consider and give you a verdict later on, if you don't.
How much later?
Oh, Monday. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll just.
Are there any parts in particularly don't
Well,
like?
I think it's simpler that it's breaking new ground, really. That one, in several respects.
Well, we are at the forefront of advertising technology.
Yes,
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh yes, we've got it. There it is, a little spell. Why not let us operate on you, R&B Hargreaves, at our new premises, Hall Street. 26929.
Can we just do that end bit without...
Despite R&P Hargreaves' best efforts, advertising couldn't support the village channel. Just as advertising alone will not support all the new broadcasters. They must find new ways of extracting cash from the viewer.
We'll have to operate. Are you sure? Alright, anaesthetic! Boom!
It costs at least £200 to receive channels direct from the Astra satellite, including 4 from Sky. Twice that to pick up 5 channels from British satellite broadcasting. But that's just the start.
I did try to explain to people in the beginning that there were going to be channels that they were going to have to subscribe to, but obviously it's caused me a bit of earache because people now are having to pay for Sky Movies, and Sky Movies have let us down with the decoders. They haven't delivered them as quickly as they could have done. So consequently, people, you know, a lot of people actually aren't really bothering with Sky Movies at all. They decide that they're happy with the sport, which is free anyway, and the news, and Sky One, which is general entertainment. So it doesn't cost them anything anyway.
This is a scrambled television picture. To see it via satellite, you have to pay extra.
On Sky Movies, you're in good company. Every afternoon at 2, meet some of the biggest...
Sky Movies, £9.92 extra a month.
Many never seen on ITV or the BBC.
British Satellite Broadcasting's movie channel, £9.99 extra. And BSB could charge extra for other programmes in future.
Who are you?
Bond, James Bond.
While rotten old Ringo taunts poor little TR with his homemade bomb, Wicked Warren gatecrashes into the hospital ward to see his newborn son. What else could it be but Search for Tomorrow?
Soon to be scrambled, Wicked Warren and the rest of W.H. Smith's Lifestyle Channel, television aimed at women. And Screen Sport 2, international sports coverage in 4 languages. The price? £65 a year for a package of lifestyle and Screen Sport.
Number 1 for sport.
With competition hotting up, some villagers anticipated an expensive and uncertain future.
Perhaps I shouldn't say this or not, but it's getting to the point now in this country where you're going to have to pay for everything. Now, whether I should say this or not, I don't know, but it's getting to the point where you can't afford to be sick now, and obviously, you can't. If they do, this thing catches on and builds up, obviously the BBC and ITV they're going to go downhill because they're not going to have the funding, and it'll just be the people who be able to pay who will get the better TV, and those who aren't willing to pay for it are going to be left with virtually nothing, I would imagine. I don't think it's a good thing at all.
Before, when you had your television licence, you could watch anything, where you're going to have to pay to watch it, aren't you? And I think that can make people poor, I think, you know, because it's going to get too expensive.
I think it's a good idea that you do come to pay for what you want. And if you don't want it, you don't have it because you don't pay for it. Instead of having a channel full of nothing that you don't want to see, you never watch for it, and you pay for it anyway.
To survive, the new satellite broadcasters must attract viewers prepared to subscribe to specialist channels. Rupert Murdoch's Sky Television is reportedly losing £2 million a week. British Satellite Broadcasting is a £1 billion gamble. Both, unless you live in an area with cable TV, can only be seen if you rent or buy the necessary hardware.
They are spending money, yes, and I think it may well be that the stories of how much they're actually spending is somewhat exaggerated, but they're spending money, and they're spending money in the hope that in several years' time, a lot of people will have dishes, or a lot of people will subscribe to cable systems, and they will recoup their expenditure. But that shouldn't worry you.
The two companies continue to lose, and they're vying with each other for movie channels, sport channels. There's not room in the sky for those two satellite companies. One of them's going to go bust now. You say I shouldn't be concerned, but if I had a BSB system or a Sky system, I would be concerned about which one's going to go bust.
There were doubts that the marketplace could sustain all the new channels.
In your market research, has anybody done how much the average family in England spend on television as opposed to an American family? Have you any idea of what
Yes,
that's
we've looked at it as a proportion of the GNP, and there is a little margin. It could go up a bit more, but not all that significantly.
No.
We look to be fairly near saturation in this country, both in terms of the amount of time people spend watching television and the amount of money they have for it. So the question becomes, and this is what Rupert Murdoch has tackled, can you shift the money and the time that is being spent at the moment watching the BBC, ITV and Channel 4? Can you persuade people to turn their attention to the new channels so that they become populations for advertisers to reach through Sky or through BSB, so that they become sources of income for the new channels through subscription.
That signal from the audiobook has travelled 23,000 miles to bring this picture.
The villagers receive 29 channels free of charge. In the real world, this new choice of programmes would have hit them where it hurts, in the pocket. As it happens, that real world lies just down the road, 10 miles away in Blackburn. A good excuse for a village outing.
So you've been busy this morning?
No, quiet really, to be honest. I've just been cleaning windows, so not very busy at all, really.
Have you put many aerials up there?
Aerials, dishes.
Morning? You've got no dishes?
No, I don't do dishes. No, I'll get somebody else to do that. We've got one going up at the Swan at Whalley. That's a big installation. There's 4 TVs going in. And
Do you vary a lot with reception, Dave, as regards picking the signals up?
No, it's not like you've got to remember when it's going 24,000 miles, it can't distinguish between Clitheroe and London. I mean, it's still got
the signal strength is there.
Yeah. It's not like, I mean, people ring me up and say, I live in Bolton. What's the reception like? I mean, that's irrelevant because, as I say, it's provided you've got a south-facing wall with a clear view, you've cracked it.
A Canadian company is spending £30 million laying cable to 160,000 homes. Almost all of the cable franchises awarded in Britain so far have North American backers. Their long-term goal is to offer telephone services. For now, they deliver multi-channel TV at a price.
We'll actually be finished in Blackburn by the end of this year, or by March of next year.
So you actually start transmitting then in March, then, do you?
No, we're actually connecting people up as we go along.
Oh, that's grand. Yeah. So they don't have to wait till next year before they get this.
As soon as we've completed an area, we energise it and we provide the service. So the service is being provided immediately behind us.
Do you know how many people are actually using it now?
I think in the region of 1,000, I think, just at the moment. But they'll tell you that at the office. My job's construction, and I'm not au fait with the figures for the other part of the job.
Either tomorrow or within the next couple of days, we'll have new equipment, and that'll rectify that, so you won't have any more problems.
So you're not going to put any more equipment in than I have to pay for?
No,
have no room.
East Lancashire Cablevision is based in a restored cotton mill.
You want to come in and have a look at
Yes, if we may, please, yeah.
All right.
How many homes do actually have cable up at the moment in the area?
Well, we are just about 600 homes right now, but we're putting them on consistently through the weeks as we market through.
So how much are people paying per week to watch cable television?
Okay, £10.95 a month. And that gives them over 30 channels right now.
That includes Sky Movies,
Now Sky Movies and BSB Movies and HVC are our only premium services that we have. And
so
of course,
much extra you pay
and
for
that
those?
is $6.95 for Sky Movies and BSB Movies and $4.95 for home video.
Is there some guarantees for a period?
We guarantee our rates for a year, and in fact 2 years. We are guaranteeing.
So
our
really,
rates.
there's nothing to stop you after 2 years bumping them up double, then, is there? Really, I mean.
Well, we are in a business market. We certainly don't want to price ourselves out of the market.
Lifestyle also offers a variety of ways to become involved with programmes through its own in-house production. The morning Lifestyle coffee break can be tied to product promotion. For example,
as the market becomes more crowded, broadcasters have been forced to look for new ways to pay for programmes. This is how W.H. Smith's Lifestyle channel sells itself to potential sponsors prepared to pay to be associated with a programme's image.
At a different topic every day, or with great sponsorship potential.
Commercial sponsorship was also seized by the Village Channel. Like some ITV companies, they took immediate advantage of the IBA's new relaxed guidelines on sponsorship deals.
There are situations in which certain types of programmes where sponsorship is allowed. Doings, happenings, events, and so on. But there are obvious categories of programmes like news, current affairs and documentary where there's to be no sponsorship at all.
Can I just give you an example of if we haven't got a programme in mind for a particular company or we can't relate that company to the programme, we were wanting to just say at the end, for instance, tonight's programme was kindly brought to you by Castle Cement. Thank you for your kind donation.
There really should be no undue element of advertising in a programme. I mean, programme independence from advertising is crucial.
A short time later...
Right, oh, that Weetabix packet, by the way, is where we're all meant to look when we queue into the videos. That's so that we don't all look at different monitors, but everyone keeps forgetting. But we'll get it right soon.
It's a plug.
Oh, we just use it as a Oh, sorry, yes.
It shouldn't have been in shot even, let alone mention it.
What?
The Weetabix box.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a, it's like an ad
we
for the,
Weetabix
for the product.
life now. Nobody learns all the rules.
Yes, something to remember for the rest of the thing.
Absolutely.
We don't want. I mean, you probably know the way that these things are turned
Do we
away
owe
or
it to
covered
the-
up.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Do we owe it to the opposition of Weetabix to mention them?
No, a few wrongs don't make a right.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
Is that right?
Sponsorship made money for the village channel. It also created problems. The station investigated a local controversy about heavy lorries passing through the village from Waddington Fell Quarry. But a short time before, they'd also struck a sponsorship deal with the Waddington Fell Quarry's managing director.
It was in an auction and we bought it.
People do feel strongly about the wagons coming through the village, and it was on the list initially. We did think that we would do something on Waddington Fell Quarries and the effects that it has on the village. And then you've got the awkward, you're in the awkward position. You've just been given a cheque from the owners of Waddington Fell Quarries to sponsor a programme. You've just said thank you very much, and then somebody's saying let's do a programme on the Fell Quarries, a negative programme on the Fell Quarries.
Why not let us operate on you at our new premises, Hall Street, Clitheroe? Telephone 26929. No. Wrong phone number.
As R&P Hargreaves struggled with old technology, 15 families watched the newest Mac pictures designed to give better quality and used by official European satellite broadcasters, including BSB. Mac was delivered by a high-frequency microwave system, which could deliver local TV in the future. Mac, on the other hand, is a stepping stone to this. After 40 years of conventional television sets, electronics companies are now working on some big ideas almost too big to handle. It's widescreen television, the shape and size of things to come. The television villagers were among the first viewers in the world to test widescreen pictures at home.
For the next few minutes, therefore,
This set is a prototype, but widescreen could be on sale later this year, initially at around £3,000.
we present to you a further selection of images from Winchester.
What's the millennium?
So what does the next generation make of it?
I think it's good, but I wouldn't like one in my front room because it's too big. Intrudes on it. It's like being at the pictures. Alright for films, they show good films and things on. It's better because you see what you're actually supposed to see when the film's being shot, instead of the scaled down version of it on the television.
And beyond widescreen, the television of the 21st century. It's not often that the country lanes of the Ribble Valley witness multi-million-pound races for world domination. But now, en route for the television village, a brand new viewing experience. High-definition television, HD TV for short. Competing for a new world market, the European Eureka 95 project, and a Japanese system developed by state broadcasters NHK and the Sony Corporation.
High-definition television essentially is being able to sit close to big pictures, widescreen pictures, that give you a much more emotional interaction, make them more stimulating, more attractive. That's the essential difference. It's achieved by removing all of those technical imperfections of conventional television, by having more lines, more resolution within those lines, but also a complete redesign of all the equipment that's involved in the chain, so that you get the real picture. You don't get all of the crawling patterns or twitters or flicker that you get from conventional television.
Hello.
Hello.
But do we need HD TV? Is it worth all the effort and investment? In Waddington's Village Club, an exclusive opportunity to take a look at the television of the future.
Welcome to the world premiere of Village High Definition Television. High Definition Television is all about the future. It's all about a new
viewing experience. It's about bigger, clearer pictures.
Unfortunately, ordinary 625-line sets can't show Eureka's 1250-line high-definition picture. But the villagers saw it firsthand, watching a selection of specially made programs, including one made about them. And the verdict? They seemed impressed.
It's very much clearer, and the sound quality is a lot better. It's very lifelike. You could almost, appear you were there, especially on the big screen.
You felt as though you were part of it. You felt as though you were going to be able to step over and touch something, and you were part of the act.
Well, the definition was better, and the colour was more natural. I think a lot of the television colours are a little bit, bright or too pronounced.
There was a lack of graininess that you can get on television that wasn't there. In fact, it was almost part of the pleasure was to watch the sheer precision of, say, the details in the cathedral and other aspects. The colours and, dare I say, the flesh tones were a sheer delight.
The Eureka 95 project is the work of European industry, research institutes and broadcasters backed by governments. They are determined to resist the adoption of any other HD TV system as a worldwide standard. It's argued that the future of European high-tech industry could depend on HD TV. But the villagers wanted to know when they will see high-definition sets in the shops.
It takes a consumer product like TV or CD, for that matter, a VCR, at least 5 years to get a penetration in the order of 5%. As a matter of fact, it took VCR 9 years in Europe to get that type of penetration. One of the reasons was, of course, the standard battle. That, I think, you must also translate towards the introduction of HDTV. So if you take that as a starting point, I would say that around 2000, I see something like 4 to 5% of the households using an HDTV set.
Will the old and the new mix? Does it mean that after HD TV comes in, that everybody finishes up with scrap sets, that they're all ready for the scrap pan?
One of the things that is puzzling the engineers who are designing the future arrangements for high-definition television is how to get a system that is what they call compatible with what exists now. In other words, just as when colour television started, a colour television went out, but you could see it in black and white as long as you had a 625-line receiver.
Right.
So they're trying to find the same way of doing that with high-definition television sets. And that, in a sense, is what's taking a lot of the politics and a lot of the time and a lot of the investment and research at the moment.
It's the same as everything. I mean, CDs came in slowly, and this will
be
marketable.
Where they should be doing. I mean,
well, they are.
I've been in the retail industry for 25 years, and believe me, Joe Bloggs on the street isn't interested in quality. All he's interested in. No, he isn't. No, he isn't. No, I'm sorry, I disagree completely. I've been in the trade long enough to know what people want. And the average man in the street is quite happy with his 625-line TV. He's not interested in HD TV.
You know, there's a very interesting pattern about the way people take up these new consumer electronic products. If you look at the history of the VCR, the history of the colour television, the history of the black and white television, even the history of good old steam radio in the 1920s and 30s, you find that none of these new technologies, none of them, managed to get into half the households in under 8 years. At the end of 8 years, 8, 9, 10 years, they were there.
And I think that the same rules apply to this one. Black and white was very acceptable until people got on saying, well, you must have this, you must have that. And the very fact that it's marketed to such a degree, it begins to say, maybe the children say, well, God, we should have one, everybody else has got one. And through all sorts of influences, you're drawn into having one. And I think at the end of the day, yes, because it's better quality, because it's better sound, and we'll make excuses for buying one.
High-definition television is just one element of television's accelerating future. Waddington could be sure of only one thing: R&P Hargreaves' commercial was finished, at last.
If you'd like to transform your house from this to this, contact R&P Hargreaves for all your joinery and contracting needs.
Why not let us operate on you from our new premises, Hall Street, Clitheroe. Telephone 26929.
Hello, my name's Mark Olding. I'm an HGV driver. I work for Waddington Fell Quarries, and I live in Waddington, a television village.
After a month of living with 29 channels, the village of Waddington in Lancashire has been weighing up the significance of television, and the village's own station has been finding its place in the community.
Right, welcome back to the studio. And tonight it's absolutely packed in here. Behind us we've got sort of a supporting cast, but with me now I've got 3 members of the first Waddington Brownies and 3 members of the first Bowland Cubs. Is that right?
Yeah.
And joined by the Arcala.
Yes.
Is Joyce Stott.
Yes, that's right.
And the Brown Cow. Brown Cow. I was dreading that. I kept saying to myself, don't say Brown Cow. It's Brown Owl. I even asked what it meant just before we started.
From the earliest days of the project, WVTV, the village channel, had attracted attention and controversy. The rows began behind closed doors, but the new vicar decided it was time to bring them out into the open.
This morning was a lovely spring morning, though the wind was a bit fierce. In the village, one of the ladies greeted me and said, "Vicar, I bet you're glad you're not in Liverpool now." Certainly it's very different from Liverpool, living in Waddington. And then I thought, I wonder what my former parish in Toxteth would have done with a village channel such as this. I can imagine that some of the subjects that they would want to cover would be unemployment, drugs, street muggings, the things they have to live with every day. Can you imagine them letting the Home Secretary get off so lightly on his visit on Saturday? They wouldn't ignore the poll tax.
When David Waddington, Home Secretary and local MP, came to the village to launch the Television Village project, the children who interviewed him submitted an approved list of questions. There were those in Waddington who'd wanted to raise controversies like the poll tax on the local station, but they were not the ones in control of the airwaves.
Do you like your new job as being a Home Secretary?
It's certainly stimulating, it's certainly challenging.
Waddington, unlike the vicar, was playing safe. The visit passed, unruffled by either politics or polemics.
Waddington Parish Council meets every month to discuss issues of concern to the village. There are 9 members of the council, which is led by Eric Edmondson. They control a budget of nearly £3,000.
While filming the seemingly innocuous workings of the parish council, the village channel stumbled on a local footpath dispute.
The parish council is currently involved in several...
The chairman, as politicians often do, expected to approve the item before it was broadcast.
...to move out of the area. At one point, the council chose to deal with an item about a public enquiry into a footpath between Westview and Church Close. In camera. That means off camera, in private, where we could not hear it. This was because of a suggestion that there should not be a public inquiry and the money should be spent instead on the village playing fields.
Can't be done.
But evidently, it is not as simple as that. Then there was footpath
she's got the wrong interpretation of it, you see. I mean, it should never be. I mean, fair dues. I mean, she thought that that money was our precept.
Right.
And we're not spending that money, it's the county council. And this is, seeing that this is a subject matter, we just can't discuss it until the outcomes. It's just as simple as that. We get into trouble with this job. Not two ways about it. We would. I just dare risk my life and limb on that. No way. Sorry.
I don't think it was the meeting that they would have chosen us to film if they could have had a choice. Definitely not. But when I sat there and heard them all argue, it was quite interesting. And then they decided that the cameras had to go. They were going to discuss this item with the cameras absent. They didn't want the cameras there. They were going to wait till we'd gone because people were expressing opinions and they didn't want them on the television set because they didn't want everybody in the village to hear about it, which quite annoyed me because as parish councillors, you elect them, and I thought that we'd be entitled to see what they actually did.
In camera, that means off camera and in private.
We elect you to keep us informed, don't we?
Yeah, well, we are keeping you informed. We're keeping you informed.
But the cameras had to go out, didn't they?
Well, if you think that everything ought to be open, you answer me why the Parliament itself elected the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act, which was specifically brought in so that issues like the one we've talked about, which are controversial and affect people individually, should not be subject to the public gaze. That's why they brought it in. So, I mean, the legal provision is there.
But I thought this was just a village channel and this was just locals learning about local issues.
I suppose it's always been the case that public service television in this country has been vulnerable to political pressure. And this country's system has been very complicated from that point of view because it's ultimately responsible to Parliament. It's a creature of the political system. And people with political complaints have sometimes been able to twist the broadcaster's arms. But on the other hand, there's also been a strong tradition of editorial independence and a view that editorial independence was very important and that one of the functions of the Independent Broadcasting Authority and of the BBC governors was to protect the BBC and the ITV companies against the exertion of too much political pressure.
It's interesting, really, on this because successive governments of either political complexion have very often thought that the BBC was biased against them. We had that with the Labour government, with Harold Wilson and Callaghan thinking that there'd be, and we have this now with Mr. Tippett and Mrs. Thatcher thinking that the BBC is against them. Maybe the BBC is anti the establishment of the time, I don't know. But they are always sensitive to this, aren't they?
I think the BBC is the alternative establishment, which is
well,
why
I think so, man.
Which is why Thatcher is so much against it, and perhaps it deserves it. I don't know.
Open up the iris, please.
Midway through the project, 2 MPs involved in framing the current broadcasting bill came to Waddington. The questions of ownership and control of television, still being fought through Parliament, were again raised by the villagers. The MPs were interviewed on the local channel, in front of a studio audience.
We've had a major argument in the committee over ownership and how much influence that various individuals have. And we've devised a situation where I think we can safely say that newspaper ownership and ownership of a number of television channels within Britain will not cross over. There are limits that are placed upon them so that no individual company or individuals can dominate the media. I have to say that is with the exception of people like Sky, who are based offshore, who of course are broadcasting on the Astra channel from Luxembourg, the Astra satellite from Luxembourg. There's nothing we can do about that.
Sky Television arrived in Britain via satellite before the broadcasting bill and well ahead of its competitors.
We take Sky and Mr. Murdoch, for instance. Now, Mr. Murdoch, I think, is it 4 channels of television that he, which is, I think, bounced in by satellite from
Luxembourg or somewhere.
Yes, and he also owns 5 national newspapers. Now, I think there are possibilities of grave danger there. I mean, politically, political influence. Mr. Murdoch is very right-wing, I would suggest, I don't know. But there are problems there that if too much of the media gets into the control of one man, that there could be problems.
Yes, I mean, is it right that a businessman who knows nothing about the media...
He's in it for commercial reasons.
He's in it for, purely for... How can he be in it for anything other? And is that right? Is not our television too important a medium to be controlled by a businessman?
It's the slant that is put on things like the news. I mean, it's the presentation of a fact. There's two ways of putting a fact. It's the way it's presented.
You mentioned Rupert Murdoch before. If you have somebody who has a particular political persuasion and who perhaps wants to put a government in a much better light or much worse light, that's acceptable for newspapers. Ought it not be acceptable for television?
It's an argument, certainly, but I would like to feel that somewhere along the line there's something that's objective.
Not when it's under the heading of BBC. One would hope that if a particular channel is owned by Rupert Murdoch, whose name's come up more than once, then you would expect that people realise that. But that doesn't come across. I mean, you know, some people read the Times or the Guardian or the Independent or whatever, and not particularly sort of believe that a particular view is being given by the owner of the newspaper. The same with the television.
Hello, Adam. Listen, any chance of you putting out the roller caption, like, you know, ASAP?
The students who helped the villagers to make their television were keen that it should be good television. They were quick to pick up long-standing local issues, and, unencumbered by village loyalties, were often instrumental in bringing controversy to a head. Arguments about the heavy traffic from the local quarry had rumbled on for years, and it was not until nearly the end of the project that the village channel could bring itself to cover the row.
I mean, to a certain extent, I'd love to do a programme on the whole Waddington Fell Quarry issue, because surely in the village that's got to be one of the most controversial issues. It has to be. You've got the environmental side of it, whereby they're digging a great big hole in the top of the fell up there. Yeah. You can see it from Clitheroe bypass now almost.
Have we asked anyone to come down and talk in the studio?
They've taken a heck of a chunk of land off there.
Wouldn't somebody come down and
we used to go up there, didn't we?
Yeah. Couldn't somebody come down and talk to us?
Obviously, our village TV channel, if we did something on it, has to be totally impartial. You've got to get both sides of the story.
It was a typical television dilemma. For some, an important story, money and jobs versus quality of life. Village elders, though, felt the issue was potentially destructive.
Over the last 10 years, there's been a 5-fold increase in the volume of traffic on the roads in Britain, and that increase has been very noticeable here in Waddington, especially lorries passing through from the quarry, as they are causing most concern.
They wake us up very early, at 6:30 every morning, coming past. Also at night, when they're going down, and all day long, they've really ruined the village.
Oh, well, they just shut your doors and that, you know.
Would you like to stop them?
Well, I suppose I would, but I don't think you can really, can you?
I think there's two kind of views have emerged as the project's gone on, both of them wanting a unified village, and one sort of set of thought says that to keep a unified village, you can't discuss controversial, sensitive issues. So keep it cosy, keep it sort of, you know, very, very, very restrained. Whereas the other sort of thought that has emerged is that, you know, this village is unified, it's a mature village, and people are close, and so they can tackle these controversial issues, and they can discuss things and perhaps reach some solutions by doing so.
Can you tell us what you do usually, I mean, aside from representing?
The village channel was itself the subject of other people's television, and this outside interest in the community focused the minds of those villagers who were not prepared to just sit back and watch.
Last week, Granada held a press conference to give national publicity to what they're doing to our village. And Hacks dutifully caught the 8:20 from Euston to be with us. Our British Legion hosts laid on a splendid buffet, which allowed locals to meet the journalists in a social setting. But what did the newspaper people take away with them? And what impression of us did they gain? Their reactions ranged from the silly superficial to the pompous patronizing.
Eric Edmondson, chairman of our parish council, is quoted as saying, "Everyone was a bit apprehensive, but it has opened up avenues of communication to the people in the village that they did not know about." Spot on, Eric. When I viewed the village channel for the first time, I wondered where the bite would be. Now, for some reason, I can't fathom why, the channel's Director General, the parish council, and other nameless worthies have banned controversy. So you and I, all avid viewers, must live the fantasy world of woman's realm and assume Waddington's in a time warp. Where the squire and the vicar are in their places, so are we all, and all's well with the world. Well, it isn't. When the parish council decides to silence controversy while claiming that we are all having a greater say, I think that's a bit naughty. Am I right, fellow viewers, in thinking that the parish council has never asked what the village thinks?
Of course they have.
The old thunderer, the Times, is
they have.
right when it says the local TV station has opened a can of worms. Come on, steering committee. Let's have your debate about our TV channel out in the open, here in the studio, in front of your constituents. Let us see that you really do represent us all.
I actually think we could have a useful debate on the comments there by Mr. Robards. Let's get it all out on channel, on film. Let's see what comes out.
They could do. I mean, if they want to debate, let them come and vent it. Let the steering committee hear about it. But I want them to understand one thing, that the parish council is non-political, and we've got to abide by the law of the country, no matter where, what, or how. And if we get into a slanging match, a political slanging match, I reckon that the whole purpose of the parish council goes to the four winds, and that's it.
All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful, the Lord God made them all. Each little flower tokens, each little bird that sings.
As the project moved towards its end, the villagers were increasingly aware of the complex relationship between those who provide television and those wwho receive it. Television may seem comfortably British, but under the new broadcasting proposals, television can be promised by one group of people, but then taken over by another, without the viewers even knowing.
Verse 5.
From what you've said to me so far, nobody objects to foreigners, essentially. Let's be blunt. Taking over. I'm not being racist about this, but
taking over perhaps one channel.
well, okay. So you have an Italian that takes over Granada. What about a Frenchman who then takes over Central, and a Spaniard who takes over London Weekend
What's
Television?
better in English when he takes over all the Italian channels? It can work both ways.
It can. It can.
The ownership from a foreign body is no different to being a white man or a black man. It's just prejudice. It's not too relevant to me. I would prefer that the BBC is owned by Britain or the ITV is British owned, but it's only that sort of natural preference.
I mean, the water authorities have just been sold off. There's a chance that they'll be bought by the French companies. It's a commercial world we live in. Television's just another commercial thing. How can you stop it becoming
Not in duty bar not to poison the water.
About village television.
Well, we decided that it should be a community programme. We knew the lifespan of this particular venture. We wanted to make the best of it. And we said, right, where are we going to start? If we're going to start with politics, the village are going to be fed up in 5 minutes. And the whole project, I would think, would have fallen apart. So what did we do? We decided, very diplomatically, that we should carry on a community basis and let the village be involved and keep the politicians out of it.
Because I wouldn't want to undo anything that Eric has said, but he will remember that I said
I couldn't be gagged in my thought for the day. And things like the poll tax have been mentioned by the vicar. And anyway, the programme has evolved. The controls aren't there, really. It's the goodwill that was spelt out of that first meeting that has bubbled over into the village, and most people have rather approved of what they've seen on those screens. But certainly we have talked about issues that have a political dimension, like the local hospital story, like the traffic from the quarry, like the poll tax, or who's going to be the next Archbishop of Canterbury. You know, is that not politics? Well, that has come in because we're all talking about it. We talk about that in the pubs.
To me, there's two issues here, really, because within this village there are people that think deeply about the young children living in cardboard boxes in the big cities, about the poll tax, about all the issues that everybody else thinks about. Now, I'm not saying yes or no about any argument, but to me, is a community channel just to show the little pantomimes and the little poetry and the little bit of this, or is it to get on to the more deeper issues that we all feel?
The issue of the cardboard boxes, you know, look, fortunately there aren't people in that position in Waddington, nor in Clitheroe. National TV channels can do that level of importance.
There was a family evicted in Clitheroe last week.
Yeah, but that, again, that's not Waddington. If it was a story,
No,
see,
but
we've
it's
not gone
Clitheroe
out.
and the Ribble Valley.
If it was a Ribble Valley channel, it's an issue. But we've got, you know, it's the same thing
But
as I
we
was
do
saying
hear in
about
Waddington about issues like this.
Now,
That's what I mean.
It seems to me that what we have here, audience, because I started this off, is that we can appear to just concentrate on domestic activity and avoid the very real issues that are happening elsewhere in the community. Something based on Waddington is what we're interested in. Jonathan?
Yeah, because one of the problems is, for example, as four presenters, we all came forward initially to volunteer for the project. Now, if you put something on about the Waddington Fell Quarries, as presenters of the programme and interviewers, if you put that on and sort of try to make a personal issue out of it, we don't think the wagon should come through, etc., etc., etc. I sell things, for example. I could go up there and try and sell something, no chance. No, you said that on that village TV.
Community television. This is going to be the difficulty of it.
Not if you could do it on a permanent basis, because if you're doing it on a permanent basis, I think you would treat it as really, you should be able to work it out that you made a living out of
in
it.
the village afterwards, and this is going to be the problem.
Have you vetted every single programme idea that has come to you? Has that been your role?
No, I haven't vetted any.
So who has? Whose decision has it
I
been?
don't really think anyone's gone to the extreme of vetting. I think it's all been done by cooperation and compromise.
You find vetting an emotive word?
I do find vetting an emotive word, because I don't think it's in our dictionary.
If this was a permanent channel, the village would have to perhaps even elect a steering committee and have day-to-day control. But for this experiment, we've been very fortunate in the kind of understanding that has built up from the word go between those behind the cameras and the machinery and those front of house. And that trust has actually given us what we've got. But in the future, if we were to have a village channel, gosh, all those pertinent questions of who controls, who selects, who vets, who makes decisions would have to be a mandate from the people.
It's interesting, Alan, because that would be unique, wouldn't it? Nothing in British broadcasting at the moment is answerable to the democratic will. Well, they are political appointees.
It's a good idea, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, we're all in favour of that.
The Waddington experience of local television could be repeated in other parts of Britain. The Broadcasting Bill's proposal for a fifth channel could be a means of bringing the attractions and concerns of community television to a wider audience.
I think maybe we'll sit back, maybe in 2-3 months, and maybe even sooner, and say, I wish to God that had never been, really. because we're never ever going to be able to reproduce the village channel, and I'm essentially talking about the village channel. We're never going to be able to reproduce that, and that's a hell of a loss, because things might tend to fall apart a bit again. But I think the village channel would have kept it together. So maybe we'll curse you in the long run that you gave us something, and it's like giving a child a toy and taking it away. I think we might live to regret that a bit.
We've just been asked to clear up a misunderstanding. Barbara Harrison did not send in a bill for the meat used in the cookery programme and was paid no money. So we just thought we'd like to mention that to Barbara.
Definitely, yeah. Don't forget to tune into WCTV, which is Waddington Children's TV, tomorrow morning at 11:15, where there'll be music, jokes, dogs, karate kicks and everything you didn't want to know about those.
And also, don't forget to give us a clue.
Blind Date with Sydney Black.
Hello and welcome to Blind Date, the show that your telly was made for.